Hello, we are St. John's Prep's Envirothon team, and today we will be presenting on water resource management, local control, and local solutions.
So, a little bit of background information. Straight Lake is about 517 acres total, and the watershed area is about 23,018 acres. The Straight Lake ecoregion includes the northern lakes and forests and is part of the Crow Wing River View. And it has about a maximum depth of 63 feet with an average depth of about 30 feet. Now, on to the current water quality in Straight Lake and how Straight Lake water compares to other lakes in the area. The wetland type of Straight Lake is inland open freshwater, shallow pond, or reservoir. After its latest measurement, the data concluded that there is about 1.83 meters of clarity. The clarity in Straight Lake is better compared to other lakes. The transparency, chlorophyll, and total phosphorus levels in Straight Lake are all measured to be between moderately clear mesotrophic and green eutrophic. The chlorophyll levels showed 8.2 micrograms per liter in its latest measurements. These are the topography and land usage maps of Straight Lake.
Let's move on to a little bit about the Pineland Sands area aquifer and any long-term trends available. So the Pineland Sands area consists of about 770 square miles of superficial glacial outwash, which is going under increasing groundwater development for irrigation. The aquifer material is a very fine sand to a very fine gravel. It has a very silty texture. However, this may vary depending on how far north or south you may travel within the aquifer. An estimated long-term budget for the aquifer involves the inflow and outflow of 295 cubic feet per second. Now, 80% of the water contributed to the Pineland Sands area is from snowmelt, spring rain, and the underflow across the northern boundary of the aquifer. As well as this, over 90% of the discharge from this area flows into nearby streams, lakes, or rivers. The Pineland Sands area aquifer has one of the greatest recharge rates. However, there are a few factors that pose a threat to the Pineland Sands area aquifer and the quality of Straight Lake. Specifically for the Pineland Sands area, there's a great concern that the production of crops and the chemicals used in their production will leak into the groundwater and make any of the surrounding wells in the area unsafe for those who already live there. This is concerning because Pineland Sands area aquifer is made of sandy and grainy textures, as I said before, making it very easy for the chemicals to leak through. People who work in and around these water-related issues think that keeping the farm chemicals out of the water when the soils are already so sandy is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to achieve.
Next, I will talk about recommendations to property owners on how to maintain or improve their shoreline and lawn care. Before we can come up with solutions, we have to identify what causes damage to shorelines. Erosion fertilizes the lake, allowing algae and weeds to grow. As plants decompose, the lake may start to resemble a marsh or a bog. Sedimentation is when erosion causes the lake to become shallower over time. Acidification and toxic contamination kill local wildlife and fish. Next, I will talk about the process of lake protection. So there are really three main parts to lake protection. Attitude is assuming responsibility for the lake status. Process is assessing the lake status and needs and planning preventative measures. Corrective action is applying solutions after consulting with the local watershed. When siting a house and other facilities, it is important to contact a zoning officer to meet regulations. Plan and create a detailed landscape map that includes building sites, wildlife habitat, and draining sites. New paths should follow the land contour and gentle slopes. If that is not possible, wooden stairs should be used on steep slopes to the waterfront. Next, I will talk about septic systems. When buying a septic system, it is important to invest in a high-quality septic tank. Have your system checked biannually, and then use water-saving toilets and showers. Don't use a garbage disposal to keep bad stuff out of the water system. When altering the waterfront, if the landowner desires a beach on the property, it is important not to build one and to find a property with a natural beach. Landowners should make docks and boathouses as unobtrusive as possible, and if feasible, don't alter the waterfront at all. All of these practices will actually save the landowners money over time. If the property has a bluff, extra precautions should be taken. Avoid extra weight on the bluff. Divert as much runoff water away from the bluff as possible. Use a drain pipe reaching the bottom of the bluff. Using these measures will decrease the landslide risk and actually keep both you and the lake safe. Finally, I will talk about modifying yard care. Landowners should use a wide buffer zone of natural vegetation between the lawn and the water. Landowners should also minimize pollutants if possible, such as leaf ashes and fertilizers. Exposed soil leads to erosion, and gardens should not be placed on slopes. A general rule of thumb: use preventative action to at least maintain lake conditions so it doesn't get worse.
Another recommendation to property owners would be to consider a conservation easement. A conservation easement is a legal document placed on land so as to protect it and preserve it for future generations. Each is unique. They are usually placed on private land, particularly lands of special value to the community or environment. You as the landowner retain most rights to the land, although some uses of the land are restricted by the conservation easement. You are allowed to enjoy and maintain the land, but you may not build any new structures or disturb natural features. Both landowners and the land trust have responsibilities. Landowners must pay taxes, perform maintenance, and must notify the land trust before making any changes. They must also allow the land trust to pay annual visits and must receive approval for certain activities. The land trust is responsible to monitor and enforce terms and rights, but they must receive permission from the landowner for anything else. The easement process takes 6 to 12 months and has several steps. First, the landowner interested in a conservation easement must complete a questionnaire that will determine the landowner's interest in protection, as well as give the land trust property information that will help them determine how to assist. If the land is fit for the conservation easement and the landowner is interested in its protection, then the land trust will perform a property evaluation, usually remotely or sometimes on site. From there, information such as maps and title work is gathered, and the landowner contacts an attorney. Then the conservation easement draft is prepared, reviewed, and discussed by the landowner and the land trust. The project is then approved by the land trust board of directors. After approval, the land trust prepares recommendations for restoring and managing ecological communities on the property. Lastly, the documents are finalized, signed, and recorded. The values of the land will be preserved permanently into the future.
One aspect of waterfront property ownership that can be forgotten is the preservation of native fish populations. Tulipies, for example, are important fish for many lake ecosystems in Minnesota. Tulipies are members of the trout and salmon family, as seen in their body shape and adipose fin. The tulipy also has a distinctive snout which differentiates it from the lake whitefish. The tulipy lower jaw is not overhung by the snout, as opposed to the lake whitefish, whose snout overhangs the jaw. Tulipies can be found in over 600 lakes in Minnesota and are important high-energy food for walleye, northern pike, muskellunge, and lake trout. Tulipies are cold-watered species with an optimal water temperature being 54 degrees. 76 degrees would be lethal for the fish, but with the warming climate and waters becoming hotter, tulipies are more at risk. Eutrophication is the overabundance of nutrients in the water, like nitrogen and phosphorus, and is caused by algae and aquatic plants. When these plants die and sink to the bottom, they take oxygen from the water that the tulipies need. Why should we take care of tulipies? Tulipy populations can be used as a marker for how healthy the lake is. Tulipies require cold, deep, and well-oxygenated water to survive, all of which are at risk due to climate change, eutrophication, and poor water management. The Tulipy Lake Watershed Forest Stewardship Project, led by Pete Jacobson, a DNR Fisheries Research Supervisor, has found that in the last 30 years, there has been a 60% decline in tulipy numbers across all lakes. Despite all the bad news, there is hope for a brighter future. More property owners are learning about sustainable ways to manage their land, and hopefully, with dedication and persistence, tulipy populations will stabilize and our lakes will thrive. The best land management practices to follow are the ones outlined in this presentation, such as maintaining the natural environment, like forests around the lakes, and decreasing flow of waste into watersheds.